Okay, can you hear me? Okay. So in this session, we explore how artificial intelligence, often regarded as the transformative technology of our time, is shaping or reshaping the way that we envision, manage, and operate supply chains. So the global supply chain ecosystem today is undergoing a profound transformation. Later, we'll hear from Aramex how that is working. And it's driven by a confluence of factors: rapid advancements in sustainability, rapid advancements in technology, changing customer expectations, the imperative of sustainability, and the recent disruptions brought forth by global events have created both challenges and opportunities that demand our attention. Now, I know that the narrative has always been focused on the challenges. Let's look at the opportunities, so keep an open mind, yeah? The supply chain was once seen as behind the scenes. It's an engine of commerce, but always behind the scenes. But now it has moved to the forefront of business strategy. It's no longer merely about moving goods from point A to point B. It's become a critical factor in delivering on promises of efficiency, cost effectiveness, reliability, and increasingly environmental responsibility. So the integration of AI into supply chain is having a profound effect on both productivity and sustainability. AI can process vast amounts of data in real time and facilitate business decisions quickly. Oh, long thing. Okay, but AI can predict demands, and it can also factor in better inventory management, predictive maintenance, automation. These are all driven by AI for productivity. But AI also drives sustainability, optimizing routes, reducing waste, sustainable sourcing, optimizing energy consumption, circular economy, risk management. So because of this, some say that AI is a tool, but some say it's a game changer. So how far is it a game changer for you? Let's take a closer look today. Two different lenses, one from the enabler's perspective and the other from a user's perspective. As an enabler, Intel stands at the forefront of tech innovation. We have with us today Mr. Ong Boon Leong. So let's hear from him how Intel is embedding AI into the very fabric of supply chain process, how this further accelerates AI-driven analytics in supply chain, and what this means to us. Over to you.
So I have a small presentations, and just probably like 2-3 minutes, then just to kickstart, how's the landscapes of what Intel is offering.
See, so this is before transformation. Wait, patience, transformation coming. So while we're waiting, how many of you here have heard of Intel? Show of hands. Okay. How many of you have thought of Intel in regards to computers? Show of hands. Okay lah, everyone. How many of you have thought of Intel in terms of supply chain? Show of hands. Okay, one hand. Your job today.
Okay. I guess as the technical parts are being resolved, right? So maybe just share a bit of my thought over here. So many may not think about Intel in many parts of your day-to-day experience with technology because we are so embedded into the core of the technologies, right? And a lot of things that you see, hey, this is cool, this is smart, in fact, is actually running off from Intel CPUs. And of course, Intel may have started its journey as a computer processors developers, producers, but over the years, actually, we have really evolved into doing more than just processors. In fact, we have end solutions, we have software frameworks to really expedite the whole developments of the next generations of the technologies, right? I think there is a mentions of open VNOs and also one API. This is really foundational software frameworks and tools that really enables the developers of the world to create all these cutting-edge softwares that eventually maybe sometimes will flow into your end products, right? So we'll take a look what that means shortly. Hopefully it's ready. Oh, okay. So I was told the video couldn't really work. Okay, no problem. Maybe the next page. Yeah, all right, thank you. So today I would like to share with you a little bit on two technologies, right? These are really not a very deep technology, but it's really a technologies that you can use day to day, right? The first one in the center is called Intel Gatsby, right? So this is essentially, if you think about it, if you want to develop some, let's say, imaging intelligence system that it can detect some abnormality, right? Often what you need to do is, hey, you need to feed the system with a bunch of images and start saying that, hey, this is the part that you have some incorrectness there, right? And you have to keep repeating it. So this tool is really helps people that without any programming understandings, right? All you really need is really take a bunch of photos, load it into the system, identify in the system what are those spots that you think is incorrect, label it correctly, right? As you feed into the system, right, the third and the fourth and the fifth, the system will actually self-learn itself. By the 10th and the 11th picture, it would already recommend, hey, this is the spot that it seems like it's not working. So this is totally a no-code solution to enable the industry, right? So Intel Gatsby. The second one that I want to talk about is known as Intel Senscape. How many of you had heard about digital twin? Anyone? Yeah, probably you heard about it, right? So essentially what it means is a representation of your physical world in a virtual settings, right? Perhaps in the 3D mapping kind of thing, right? So there are a lot of solutions out there, right? What Intel Senscape is actually helping over here is really, imagine this, right? If you have used Intel Gatsby to train, hey, this is a AMR that's moving about, right? And in your factory floor, maybe there are 8 cameras that are looking at the whole floor, right? As the AMRs are going from one section of the floor to the next section of the floor, right? Obviously, maybe 2 cameras are looking at the same thing, right? And they detect, hey, this is AMR A, right? How then you really fuse those object detections and map it easily into that 3D mapping floor, right? So this is entirely a very intelligent system that helps you to really properly map up your floor. And as you really map out all those routes, right, you can also put in rules to say that, hey, if someone steps into that section which is dangerous, let's alert, maybe make the siren sounds, right? These are some of the potential application that you can think about, and of course leveraging on the Intel Senscape technology that we have. Again, no code, no program, pretty easy to use, right? Perhaps you really need to work with your SI to look into this and really just drive the next level of smart factories, right, for your settings. Yeah, next page. Next page. All right. So you may have heard about PC, right? Guess what? We are no longer in the PC era, right? Today, I'm really delighted to tell you, right, we are entering an era called AI PC. What does that mean, right? So you may heard about other competition, right? They are telling you about, hey, you have to train your big data in the cloud, right? You need to buy expensive training data, large language model in the cloud, right? And it takes a lot of machines to train. Yes, that's right, right? The big chunk of data are being trained. But if you have been playing around maybe with systems like ChatGPT, it's so human-like, right? It's kind of like you're talking to a human, and it's running off from the cloud, right? With these introductions of the next generation of AI PC, what does that mean is you can actually download some parts of those models, right, which has been streamlined, load it into the PC, right, and also work with some of the domain-specific information that you felt is very secretive that you don't want to share with the cloud, train it, and then embed that knowledge as part of the larger model and interact with it on-premise without connecting to the cloud. And this kind of usage is made possible by the next generations of AI PC, starting this December, it will be known as the Intel Core Ultra brand. All right? So hopefully with these sharings of AI PC, it stirs a little bit of excitement. Mark my word, it's going to go beyond a laptop. It's essentially going to be into your industrial PC in the future as well. Thank you.
Wow, I want to buy, man. So, but it's coming to Malaysia?
Yes, yes. The product is going to launch in December, right? There we have already a lot of, laptop maker, workstation makers. They are building this, right? The official launch is in December. Watch out for it. There will be a lot of excitement that will be unleashed with this, right? Imagine this, right? In about 2 years, there will be about 100 millions of these systems powered by Intel out there. And we are committed to have all these generations of processor built in with AI capability that's at your hand.
And the best part is that there's no leakage of data.
Correct.
So that is the other side of AI. Many times when we use AI and the machine learning, right, our own proprietary data is leaked out there and shared. So okay, this takes care of it. So we PM tepi, I order. So our next panelist is Mr. Syahrul Azmi Zaki, Country Manager of Aramex. Now, you might think, right, why Aramex? Aramex is a global leader in logistics. And what we want to hear from Syahrul today is the real-world application of AI, how AI impacts their day-to-day operations, how technology meets practicality, and how you see AI in the future of delivery and warehouse.
Thank you, Datin. I think this is a very good opportunity for me to share with regards to Aramex. And I think before I share that, I just want to say a very good morning to everyone. Penangites especially, I think it's a very, bring me high amount of pleasure to come to Penang. Every time I've been coming to Penang the last 15 years on work basis. As mentioned earlier, I've been in industry for the last 25 years. I've been with many companies before, and currently with Aramex. So before we start, I just want to bring back the significance of supply chain in how we compete today for the SMEs. In fact, the last 2 months, this is the 3rd SME event that I joined. And of course, we try to understand what are the key requirement or demand, from the SMEs when they come to this kind of talk, And one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of the SME, they are trying to find ways to cut costs, obviously, and of course, to find ways how to compete in their marketplace, because as market getting more and more competitive, every players, not only the global type of customers or companies, but also small and medium-sized enterprise need to bring up their game level and compete, especially after what happened the last 3 years. In fact, my next question would be, which industry do you think that get the most impacted out of COVID in terms of profitability? And it's not pharmaceutical, yeah? It's not pharmaceutical. The largest beneficiary of COVID, unfortunately, are the logistic industries, the supply chains, and it totally revolutionized how we buy items. That is actually at the consumer level. But after this, it's going to go up stage by stage to SMEs. But like what my friend from Intel has mentioned, the global and multinational customers has already started earlier. I'm sure the program the software has been started the last 1 or 2 years even, leading to this. And 2 years after pandemic, if you notice, one of the biggest merger and acquisition that's happening globally is actually at the logistics company. Huge logistic company are being bought over because the amount of profitability that was gained during the pandemic. And I think this is something that a lot of other industries can take heed as well. Because the question how you use supply chain to compete in your market will be a very important question when you leave this discussion. Because I've been in logistics for 25 years and Penang is one of my largest market actually. There's a lot of examples that I can share with you, perhaps one-on-one, because of what I call this, PDA and all that. But how companies using logistics to compete with their competitors. A lot of the time, a lot of companies, SMEs, even multinational companies, they consider logistic or supply chain towards the end of the whole plan. And I think this is where, especially, the operation has been going on for many years. So whenever there are major changes, like what just happened in terms of COVID, so you should go back, or you have the opportunity to go back to your drawing board and put, perhaps people, logistic, those functions that before this are the last one that for you to consider after sales, finance, operation, then after that, you will consider the admin, the trucking, the supply chain, right? What we are trying to do is that we want to bring it to you to use that as a point of your competitiveness in getting bigger market share. I'll give you an example, a very simple one. There's one customer here that sends shipments to the US, for example, and they are competing with their competitor in the US. However, the time and transit is the same. Meaning that it takes 2 days if people were to order from the US to their customer in US as compared to they ordered from a Penang factory, still can deliver 2 days. So in terms of transit time, there's no difference. But in terms of costing, very obvious comparison, the Malaysian one have much lower costing. So this is where I think, before we go on further, I think we should understand the impact or the significance of supply chain, and especially together with AI, because AI, in fact, the last 12 months is a big topic for us internally at the global level. We have already discussed many ways of how we plan to cut costs, and at the same time try to serve the market, because as you well aware, the B2C market are getting bigger and bigger. The Shopee of this world, the Amazon of this world. I mean, there's a lot more change in customer buying behavior, and I'm sure the next level is to the companies itself. And Aramex, being around for 42 years, actually out of Dubai. We are actually based in the Dubai Stock Exchange, been around for 42 years, been around in Malaysia for 10 years. However, before this, a lot of our customers are from what they call this, highly regulated industries, and the likes of oil and gas, semiconductors, what they call this, aviation as well. These are the customers that require high level of customized solution. And of course, because they have the volume, they are able to do so. And more, we are trying to approach the SMEs, because we actually try to attract the SMEs by group. For example, before this, we had a session in KL where we addressed the SME Association of Malaysia, where their members come over and try to understand how they can cut their costs, which is very basic, but more importantly, how they use, or they can use supply chain to compete for more revenue. And it's not about lowering your cost. It's about gaining that competitive advantage. So, yes.
So I think that sets the scene. How do we become smarter, and how do we use it not just to complete what we need to do, but as a competitive advantage, right? Part of your business strategy. So let's start just getting into the key points. We will talk about very briefly the current state of AI in supply chain. Then we'll talk about how we can enhance productivity through AI and how we drive sustainability. So let's begin with Boon Leong. What are the latest trends and innovations in AI technology that has the potential to reshape the supply chain industry?
Right. I think the latest trends is AI that probably you have heard about, right? Is really all these large language model, right? You may have interacted with a system like ChatGPT, right? And recently, ChatGPT really added the voice and also the imaging capabilities, right? As interesting as it seems, right? A lot of us really just think, hey, but this seems like an IT thing, right? So how does it really apply to supply chain, right? But the core of all these technologies, if you think about it, right, is really, hey, if you have a ways to capture the essence of your business operations, right, the database, the rules, the normal flows, right, and you work with system analysts or your SI to train that into your company domain-specific model, right, then you take the big language model that really can interact with you as if it's a human, right? And you treat it like this is a human UI AI kind of thing, but really, if you have really played with it, a lot of time it doesn't have a lot of knowledge. It feels like someone's 4 years old bubbling something out, doesn't have sense. But if you can really take those domain knowledge and kind of pair it together and run it on your premise, then suddenly it becomes the wizard for you. Imagine this, right? So in your supply flows, right, obviously you have people that have very talented know-how, the system things, but guess what? They cannot work 24 hours, right? So in your logistic, what's the most critical things that really scratch your head? Lie down, excursion, right? Often those kind of excursion happens, guess what? Murphy Law says, midnight, where your talents are sleeping and maybe always on call. And sometimes some of the technicians, they also worry to call. It's like, oh, I try to work it out, but guess what? They don't have someone dependable that they can ask, right? Now, if in your premise have this wizard that is really domain-specific knowledge equipped, that you just put out on the floor, hey, if you're really not sure what this means, what's the process, let's just talk to the system. The system then can tell you, yeah, this is the next thing that you can do. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? If this is really not working, maybe you should do the next thing, right? That really de-risks what you're going to face in the excursion, right? So this is just one small piece of what I can think of that really make a big impact to the logistic world.
This sounds like the earlier conversation we had on collaborative AI. So AI is used to enhance what human capabilities are, not to replace, but to enhance, bring it to the next level. Now, Syahrul, how has Aramex Malaysia incorporated AI in its supply chain operations, and what are the benefits you have observed?
We at Aramex, we don't do it at the country level only. It's basically a global drive out of our HQ. At the moment, at the global level, and of course in Malaysia, we have started working on electric vehicles. That's pretty obvious. I think we've started working on it the last 2 years already. I think the last 2 years. Malaysia, we are actually at the moment shopping. So any EV companies here can come and see us and can discuss. Because actually by 2030, we plan to reduce 50% of carbon from the ecosystem, from our side. And by 2050, the company plan to have no more carbon. That's quite a tall order, but we are trying. I think we are not the only company that's trying, but most of the supply chain or logistic companies are doing it because the cost benefit is really obvious. I think a very good example that I can give is that especially LED lighting. You know, 10, 15 years ago, people changed from normal bulb to LED lighting. It makes perfect sense to do the change, but the cost of change is very high at the front. So I think this is something that the logistics and also supply chain companies are working on while we serve the market and to ensure that there's no interruption. But I think in terms of the benefit, to ask your question in one sentence, it's pretty obvious. It's just that a matter of how fast can any company actually to complete that transition into AI actually, because AI to logistic, they cut a lot of wastages. And I think if you are from the lean background, Six Sigma background, and when you look at continuous improvements in your supply chain, in your logistic movement, I think there's a lot of benefit or improvement that AI can provide. Because basically, I'm telling you, as far as logistics is concerned, AI, we have started this many 100 years ago, but it is manually until recently, where it become computerized, automated, where now, based on one small handphone, perhaps, I was told that my phone that I just bought can bring me to the space. So I think there's a similar kind of comparison that I can give. So yes, it's a matter of time. It's just that we need to find a balance between that.
So it's not just about, it's not even about this huge cost to implement that is not going to have obvious returns, because the returns are quite fast. Okay, so let's talk about enhancing productivity through AI. Boon Leong, how can AI be a driver for increased efficiency and productivity in supply chain management? Any specific cases, use cases that you like to highlight?
Right. So remember I talked about AI PC. So even though it's going to launch in December, doesn't mean AI is not there, right? Just that AI PC is really having this very small component called NPU, the neural processing unit, that really bring out a more faster AI-related computation, right? So to your question, what I want to say is AI is in fact there for many, many, many years, right? In fact, AI, from a literature perspective, right, it really covers a wide range of application, right? It can be machine learning, right? It can be deep learning, right? It can be also being used in some of the other recommendation systems, right? So the most simplest ways to tap into the power of AI, right, is really look at, hey, if I have a logistic demand and like all these strange curves happening because of the disruption that you're having in the world, right? As simple as being able to pull out all those data and maybe use some web crawlings capabilities to crawl into the world to say, hey, is this part of the world is happening some shortage problems, and maybe, oh, okay, the price of the material seems to be going up. It's also kind of like indicating, is it getting more demand over here, right? We get that kind of insights into things that used to be, has to be, hey, let's talk to the supply procurement engineer. Then the procurement engineer have to make a call. They say, okay, yeah, seems okay, right? But a lot of things can be automated, right? When you can pull all those data, right, and you apply some of these simple machine learning, things like plotting out the curve and say that, hey, if there's a limit, really just send you an email, things like that, right? This is really simple AI system. That itself can already help improve the productivity. But of course, right, with all this LLM that I talk about, right, the recommending system is becoming very, very powerful, right? So have you used systems like YouTube, Netflix, right? When you watch them, it kind of like know what your interest is, right? Those are systems that learn what your inclination is, right? At the end of the day, the systems that's behind it is really a recommendation system, right? So imagine that if you can put your companies, the know-how that all your so-called critical talent has, and capture that as an essence, that becomes a powerful recommender systems, even to many of you that maybe just newly come on board and without clue what's the culture, what's the general practices, right? These are some of the possibilities that can be done to really improve the overall company optimizations. Yeah.
That's a very interesting perspective. Now, let's talk a little bit about driving sustainability now. Syahrul, just now you spoke about reducing carbon by 50% by 2030. That's very lofty. So can you deep dive a little bit more? Tell us exactly how does AI fit into this sustainability effort? I mean, there's no direct.
More than anything, for us logistics, AI provide us decision-making information. I think with AI, we are able to make that decision much faster and much regularly. And I think that's the speed of how we react to the market is important. And I think this is what a company like Aramex can extend it to our customer or our clients. Because to us, in terms being a public listed company, we have to be responsible in doing our business in terms of how we ensure that there's sustainability in terms of our carbon producing as an industry. There's a lot actually. Transportation, as I'm sure all of you are aware, have the largest amount of carbon issues that we need to reduce. So that's where sustainability is very important, and also in terms of the partners that you work with, because there are partners who can give you a short-term solution, but it's not sustainable, and you can get it with a lower pricing. And I'm sure if you look at the panel over here, you wouldn't associate Intel with a cheap product. You would associate Intel as a highly automated or high technology product. And similarly, like Aramex, we want to go there even though we are a very traditional industry. We are logistic, and logistic has been around for thousands of years. But where we have the last 3 years, I'm telling you, there's a lot of changes that's going to happen. And as you know, the world is changing. There's a lot of movement, as you rightly opened the panel just now, where in terms of supplies, in terms of the raw material, there's a lot of changes at the moment, the last 12 months. And whether you don't have to go far. You look at Penang. This year, the news about Penang investment and also foreign direct investment into Penang has grown up tremendously. I have all the numbers, but I wouldn't bore you with the numbers here. But if you look at all the top manufacturing companies in Penang, they are doubling up. The semiconductors industries are doubling up in terms of their investment. They are stretching their capabilities in terms of at least making their facility in over here bigger. So the question is that being an island, how long can this be sustainable? I think these are one of the questions that you need to answer as well as a responsible corporate citizen. Yeah.
So we now come to the segment where we take questions from the floor. Any one of you with questions for our two learned panelists? I mean, we have one who is technology, but not obviously the technology we think about in supply chain. And then we have logistics, who also we don't think about, we don't normally associate with sustainability. So anyone with any questions to ask them?
Thank you. My name is Kenneth Tiong, Datin. I'm representing the Logistics Productivity Nexus of MPC. There's a lot of talk about AI today, and talk about data in the cloud. My question is very simple. When we talk about AI, you are basically talking about data. You have to train data, you have to capture data. And a lot of today's solutions are based in cloud. Now, as we know that more and more people understand about AI and data protection, what we call scheme, and also the secrecy of trade secret, more and more big companies are refraining on sharing data in the cloud. I would like to know, today, we are migrating from the larger company down to the SMEs. We have to protect the SMEs. Very important, because there is no way we simply share data, and a lot of SMEs, because of their level of understanding of AI and automation, as well as what they call digitization of data, they will simply just go inside. There are people who actually went to the cloud and get the application, and their data are seen by other people because it's not properly set up. And these are very common things today. My question is, since the bigger one, the big boys are refraining from that, and we are now encouraging the SMEs, what will be the trend today in the next decade, 10 years? Because it moves very fast. I'm asking for 10 years because the SMEs will take that long to actually move across. Right. What will be the trend? Will they go into the cloud? Or, like what you say, Intel has a good future by having the AI PC, isolating down to the level of the enterprise, whereby you can still have AI and you can still train the data and capture the data, and of course, with input from some bigger consultants, somebody who give a system integrator can provide the data, will then have the thing localized. Because I still see that the trend, the hype that we are having today is go to the cloud, go to cloud. And I'm very sure this is things that are going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, which I think is very unhealthy, because data today is the new currency. Many big companies, especially system integrators, they are monetizing the data. That's the reason why in European Union, the Data Protection Act and privacy is so strong and getting stronger and stronger today, that they are now putting a very high level of what we call protection on especially the SMEs. Because in Europe, there's a lot of SMEs. Worse still in Asia, like Malaysia, 80% are SMEs. So this is the things that we have to protect. Logistic Protecting Nexus have a very big vision on this area. So my question is, what will be the trend within the next 10 years in the local scene, taking consideration of the experiences in Europe and US, bringing to here? You said you have going to launch in this December the AI PC, which I also view with great interest. This is something that we should go into it, but I'm asking both the gentlemen, Mr. Syahrul and also Mr. Ong, what will be your prediction and what will be the trend is going to be within the next decade? Thank you very much.
Who wants to start first?
I think it was...
Okay. All right. In fact, as Mr. Kenneth, as you asked the question, right, there's already an answer in it if you are not aware. Okay. Okay, why I say that, right? Technologies is always going to be there, right? If you don't have policies in it, your next in line, your engineers, they are not aware of all this. They will do very, very quote and unquote silly things that you are not even aware, right? Even there are laws, right? Let's say in software development, there are laws that say, hey, if you copy this code and this code is actually open source, you have to open source. There will be always engineers that don't know these things, that copy it and keep it closed source, that eventually goes into problems, right? So I think the foundational part of AI really rolling out is really companies understand what kind of policies that you want to set, make sure the company employees are well understood what's the boundary. That is at least taking care of the human policies thing. The next thing that you may want to consider, right, is really put in your system, your network, some firewalling, right? And maybe perhaps also put in some proxy to look at, hey, is there some violations happening there? And this is really necessary. Even in company like Intel, we have this kind of things to make sure that your engineer maybe sometime, oh, I look at YouTube and I know this thing, oh, maybe I should try it out. Then they put something there. You want to be able to catch that and block it right there, right? So those are important systems that you need to put in place to prevent that, right, apart from the policy. Then the next thing that I try to address over here is the training part, right? So a lot of us really have, maybe perhaps also have this misconception that, hey, we need to do training on the cloud. In fact, it's not, right? Yes, the cloud service provider wants you to use their service. They give you free account, right? Pre-access. After some quota, they'll start charging you. That is their business model, right? If you are SME that think that, yeah, I want to tap into that because I don't want to invest in IT departments that really maintain that, and I can have some part of data that is not so trade secret per se, leverage that for that kind of benefit, yeah, I think that's a good route, right? But if you really care about a lot of all these proprietary things that you also want to tap into AI, look into on-premise training server, right? That server can be in your guarded areas, train there, work with your system integrator to empower it. And a lot of all these so-called AI inference means you have two parts, right? AI is training. You train the model, you know how it works. Inference is really you interact with the AI, right? That inference can also happen within your premise. That is possible. The AI PC is really to give that inference engine at your hand, right? It doesn't have your data. You still have to work out with your SI to build that maybe in your enterprise network, make that kind of application work. Because of the power of the AI PC, a lot more application can run on that PC, and the power is really a lot. Yeah, hopefully I addressed that, yeah.
I just want to add a bit. I think in terms of AI, sir, I think as far as logistic industry or supply chain is concerned, it's increased the level playing field for the SMEs. I think the point that I want to touch on your question is that the significance of SMEs. I'm proud to say that Intel is one of our customers. And one of our biggest customers in Central as well is actually Nike and Adidas on the day-to-day delivery. If you notice, a lot of the names that I mentioned are global big customers. But with AI, a good example is that the same solution that Intel is providing, any SMEs should be able to get their hands on it, providing the cost is manageable. But what I'm trying to say is that you can compete with top brand names. And that is something that you wouldn't see 10, 15, 20 years ago. 10 years ago, if you work with Mercedes-Benz, for example, as a logistic companies, right, you wouldn't be talking to the Protons, the other brands, put it that way. But now, the competition has been level playing field and is opened up so much that the opportunities for the SMEs, even though you are a 500 ringgit startup company, revenue in the first month, you can have the same solution, the same automation, the same AI technology to make the same kind of decision that the big multinational companies are doing. And I think this is where I want to emphasize the importance that the SMEs to really look beyond the cost, the starting up cost, so that when you work together as a big group, you know, like you rightly said, as coming from the association, and get the benefit out of it. And I think that's when, for us, like logistic companies, right, we are actually happy when we see that a lot more brands are competing in the market, because we are just a facilitator of trade, you see. So if, let's say, for example, more and more companies are able to go into using AI as a tool to level the competition field with your global competitors or big companies, there are companies, big brands like Intel, like Aramex, who are willing to work with you, obviously. Yeah.
Can I just add a little bit, yeah? So I think it's also important to remember that, I mean, of course, if you look at budget, right, SMEs are smaller. But don't forget, SMEs are agile. Decision-making, implementing change is faster. The bigger companies, sorry guys, move slower. They got the budget for it, but they move slower. So actually, I had this conversation last week in a different context with legal tech. So the answer we came up with at that conference was for the smaller companies to look at GDPR framework, right? So, and of course the legacy data to look into blockchain, but that's not entirely AI lah.
My further comment, I think maybe you missed my point slightly. What I'm trying to say is, Datin, you are a very strong advocate for SMEs. We at Logistics Protecting Nexus, which is basically covering all the logistics players in Malaysia. I just returned from Sabah, Sarawak, Penang, I just had. We are very keen to protect these people. And majority of the logistics service providers are either medium size or small size. Very hard to get large size. But of course, large size, the Aramex is a large size because it's a multinational companies. Now, the question here now is, the SMEs, as I said earlier, sometimes some of the medium size went into cloud. So they get into, they get into troubles or they get into real situation, tight situations. What I'm trying to say is, the way the SMEs in Malaysia are implemented, and the trend is so fast that we need to protect, that's what I'm trying to say, yes. We need to protect the SMEs. They are very agile, some of them willing to invest, some of them willing to even jump the big, take the quantum leap, but that is not the point. The point what I'm trying to say is, we need a certain framework to protect the SMEs, especially when you go to AI. And when you talk about AI, you know very well how to get AI to work for you. You're actually training the data. And data is their key, which is important. I work with logistics industry for the past 40 years. All the forwarding agent in Malaysia knows me, who is Kenneth Tiong. I can tell you, none of the forwarding agents want to, the big one, the SMEs, they do not want to have data to be situated in the central position. They say, these are my trade secret. Of course. No way, they say. So this is what I'm trying to say. Having that into consideration, what I'm trying to say is, there's some kind of framework, like, you know, maybe MASSCI can also work together with Intel to come up with some kind of guideline for the SMEs. What are the steps to take in terms of protecting your data? And you want to jump into AI, and you jump into training of data. These are technologies they have to go in, whether you like it or not. That's what I'm trying to say. You need a heavy protection to something. Don't wait until when the time is too late, you get into trouble. So this is my request, that things can be done in the right way. We are talking about SMEs, and yet we are talking about technology. And we are talking technology, you have to talk about trend. AI, you know, machine learning, all these are things that is coming, already is here, but it's coming to Malaysia soon, into the doors, knocking at the doors of the SMEs. Thank you.
You're absolutely right. Sorry, I'm jumping here. But you're absolutely right. So with technology, what we need is governance, right? So I think what you're talking about is not necessarily AI per se. Yes, correct. And again, we can't isolate technology and say this is this, this is that. So this, I think, is a combination of cybersecurity with data protection. So it's not just about enhanced PDPA, but also GDPR, which, you know, as signatory to CPTPP, Malaysia needs to implement.
You know why I'm talking about this? I just finished my contract with European Union for the Rise Plus project.
Yes.
Okay, just finished. And when I'm 2 years with them, their emphasis on data protection is so high.
Yes.
That's why I'm telling you, data is today the key. And they say it's a new currency now. And a lot of big companies who actually collected this data are monetizing their data, making the thing.
Yes.
So this is where we do not want to share our data unnecessarily, free of charge, and sometimes even falls in the wrong hand. That's what I'm trying to say. SMEs need protection, a governance, as you say, a framework. So somebody, I suspect, Malaysian, Datin, your association, may take the lead, because you're also thinking about technologies and all those kind of things. You take the lead. And logistics players will definitely toe the line if they're given the right governance framework.
We'll be happy to. In fact, last week when we spoke about this, we actually got Veritas Technologies on board, and we actually want to move this forward with the Bar Council, because that was in a legal tech conference, right? But yes, imagine we discussed the exact same thing. 2 days later, AG's chamber got hacked. So yes, it's something that we want to move forward, and I hope MPC will help as well, both MEPN and LPN, so that we can actually take a good look at this, and probably digital, productivity nexus. Yeah.
I can just add a bit. Might be a bit different, my answer, sir. But your concern for the SME actually is the big multinational company biggest concern. They are actually very concerned competing with these SMEs because basically it's like the story of David and Goliath again, right? On a daily basis, any SME can fight the brand like Adidas, Nike, Reeboks and all that. Just to give an example. So while we try to put more, I would say, rules and regulation around it, if you're asking me about the next 5 years, I think SME is going to control the market better than big companies. I think Datin mentioned it rightly that they are more agile, they can make faster decisions. In the logistic industry, I've seen many companies who are from the SME who are able to fight head-to-head with big companies. Because I think more than anything, what we would agree is that during this time, old rules doesn't apply most of the time, and especially the last 2 to 3 years. In fact, after COVID, there's a lot of old policy, rules and regulation are no longer applicable. I mean, in those industries.
That's how we live in exciting times. But yes, we PM30 afterwards. I hope our repertoires are capturing this. Yes, I think it's a commitment we'll make.
I think from Intel perspective, we will actually gladly work with the local governments to really coming in from a framework, technology framework perspective as advisor, right? And this is not really the first time as well, right? Intel has been working in multiple regions to help spec up, right? What does that mean? And at the heart of Intel, right, we really believe in open standard and open source technologies, right? And our job as Intel is really to provide the silicons to enable it. And also at the core of AI, even though I didn't mention, we put a lot of focus on security as well. And that's a side talk if you run to Rome no more, yeah.
So, okay. So, mindful of time, we need to move this on. But just now we asked the question, is AI a tool or a game changer? What do y'all think now? I think it's a paradigm shift. So a big round of applause for our speakers. Did y'all learn a lot? So, okay, I hope that this was enough inspiration and insight to start. I remind everyone, industry players and ecosystem, it is not about a conversation you have for one day. It is a continued discussion, small steps every day. You can call it Kaizen, but it's sustainability. So what we want is to be the catalyst of innovation through platforms like this for knowledge exchange. But what we really want to do is to see daily, every day, small steps taken in the right direction. And with that, we conclude the session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention.